Weed history.
Today we're going to talk about federal cannabis control. In 1906, the United States Congress passed the Pure Food and Drug Act. It required that certain special drugs, including cannabis, be accurately labeled with its contents. Sounds at first like they were kind of being rough with it, but this was still during a time when people were selling things like snake oil, and not being able to control something like that was important. I mean, people were getting sick. They required it. Unfortunately, cannabis was one of those ones where they're like, we don't know. Needs to be labeled that this has cannabis in it and that it could be potentially dangerous. In 1925 to 1932, over the course of 7 years, it took to create the Uniform State Narcotic Drug Act. It was introduced because in 1915 there was the Harris Act, which did kind of control certain things, but it didn't actually allow for control and confiscation. It just allowed for fines, which essentially was just like a personal tax for being caught with things like cannabis. It was really just labeled as a moneymaker law during that time. So this actually gave states and police the authority to arrest and seize narcotics. And it also allowed states to choose if cannabis was a narcotic and controlled by this law. Very important. It's a cool thing to think about, where they said, yeah, this is how you handle narcotics. You as a state gets to choose if you feel cannabis is considered a narcotic. The Federal Bureau of Narcotics, the FBN, headed by Harry Anslinger, he pushed with FDR for the Marijuana Tax Act. You go, marijuana, ooh, it's not something I say a lot, right? Which taxes hemp and cannabis into near extinction in the market. Now, they started calling it marijuana during this time. The reason they called it that, it was called cannabis and hemp before then. That's just kind of what they called it. Hashish, sometimes you saw. So they start using the term marijuana, not a real term, until this moment when they wanted it to sound more Mexican. It was a racist thing. They were trying to make people less likely to enjoy it and more likely to vote in favor of this and be in favor of this being passed, this tax act. Also with them lobbied a whole bunch of the logging companies. Why? They were logging and they were making paper. They were heavily outcompeted by hemp. People were making hemp paper like crazy, and people were already proving that it was more durable and better and outperforming regular just tree paper. So the logging companies got worried too, so they helped lobby for this. Against this marijuana tax act, in addition to like all of the hemp farms and stuff like that, you had the American Medical Association, the AMA. They were fighting against it. Them and pharmacists were like, hey, we're currently prescribing people this, and you're like taxing the heck out of this. And it really did. It really crushes the market. It wasn't a direct ban. They were just controlling it by pure taxes.